Episode 26 Fireside Chat with Courtney Reckless of Reckless Cards, Part 1. Welcome to the 26th episode of the Card Diary by Hobby S. Thompson. I am your host, Denny Cards, and thank you for tuning in. I liked the intro last time, so I'll do it again. To paraphrase Jay-Z, you could be listening to any podcast in the world right now, but you're here with me, and for that, I appreciate you so very much. Okay, so I am recording this intro the night before leaving for the National so that it publishes by Wednesday morning, and it's actually past midnight, and so it is officially 0 days to the National. My flight also leaves tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. Certainly an economical choice when I booked it, but it's okay. It's not too bad in the grand scheme of things, and I can be up by 6 a.m. or whatever it is. Earlier today, I will admit, I felt some nerves when I wasn't fully packed, when my cards weren't freshly comped, and when I was struggling with which cards to bring. But I can say now that I feel much better having packed, having decided which cards to bring, having freshly comped the cards that I'm planning to bring. So recording this intro is the only thing left on my plate before going to sleep. Having said that, I will admit feeling a little guilty with going on this trip where my family isn't coming with me. It's just going to be me. My kids are still at the age where they don't want me to go. They're like, "Don't go, Dad," and they give the tightest squeezes, and it really is just so adorable. So, of course, I'll get them some basketball and Pokemon cards while I'm at the National. I'm also going to be missing Family Beach Week because of this trip, because I just can't take that many days off in a row with work. So that said, I did want to just briefly talk about something that's been on the back of my mind because, I want to show the humanity, the vulnerability, to connect. And I hope you appreciate this. But having said that, as I meet people in person in the hobby, a lot of you in National, in Rosemont, I'm sure the question of what I do for a living will come up just in the natural flow of conversation. I'll ask what you do and all that. Or maybe I won't. I don't know. Maybe we'll just talk about cards. Maybe it's just small talk about the pieces of cardboard. But in and out of the hobby, normal small talk, ask people what to do for a living. And I will say that I was recently on a YouTube live with FD in his Rolling with FD, and he asked me that same question. And, it's a very well intending question. But I said back then what I'll say here now, which is I like to keep my work and the hobby separate. I know some people interweave it, they don't mind sharing it. But, for me, at least for now, I will just kind of just straight up say that the hobby for me is escapism. And it's just where I get to have fun, be creative, do some fun things. And, maybe that changes. I hope the fun doesn't change. But for now, that's me. I just want to keep it about the cards and the hobby and just everything surrounding the hobby. So I will say that. I think that's all I want to say for now because I am just so excited to share this episode. I'm not going to go long in this intro. The first half of my chat with Courtney Reckless of Reckless Cards, I do the whole grand intro. I talk about how it was long overdue to finally have my first woman in the hobby on the podcast, and so I'll just keep it at that. And I'm just gonna take a step back and let the guest chat speak for itself. I would love to know what you think. When I'm done with the part one, I'll do a quick little outro, and then it'll be time for part two. So without further ado, part one with Courtney. All right. Welcome to episode something in the early 20s of the Card Diary by Hobby S. Thompson. I am your host, Denny Cards, the self-proclaimed jack of all trades, master of none. And today is a day that was long, long overdue. I finally have my first woman in the hobby as a guest. It took only 8 guests to get here, which is completely my fault. She was so nice to say it was okay to delay the time of this due to some ill-timed laundry being done in the Hobby Podcast studio in the Denny Cards household. And I will also, I guess, say that, I even had a rising middle schooler on the podcast. And he was truly amazing. I can't wait for folks to listen to that. Or actually, maybe if they listen to this, they've already listened to that. But I got to say, you have some big shoes to fill, Courtney.
Little
So,
shoes. No.
yeah. Yes, kid-size shoes to fill. But for a proper introduction, here we go. My guest today is a very special woman in the hobby. If you have social media accounts in the hobby, you know her because she will likely have landed on your For You page because she has such funny, authentic, endearing, educational, and just straight up real content on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, YouTube, Threads, kinda Twitter, which we will talk about later. I don't know if I've missed any, but she'll let me know if I did. She is the better half of the power couple in the hobby, true hobby royalty, if there was such a thing, in my opinion. The queen of the hobby, a mother of four, someone I consider a true friend in the hobby, the one and only Courtney Reckless. Welcome to the pod.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited. It's, speaks volumes to the space that I get asked to do podcasts by myself now, because it used to always be me and Jeremy. So it's fun that, I'm seeing more women getting asked even to be on podcasts. When Jeremy and I started our podcast, we had asked women to come on, and they would often say, this is the first time I've ever been asked to be on a podcast. So it's exciting.
Well, I am so excited to have you here. I've learned so much from you, from your content, from your friendship with DMs and individual DMs and group DMs we have, where we're just kind of talking about the hobby and issues and topics. You know so much. And I guess the first thing I want to ask you, and it's not going to be a jokey one, although I could just make this entire thing jokey because we have a really good rapport, but I will ask you, did you take any breaks throughout the hobby, or is this have you been continuously in the hobby throughout this whole time?
That's a really good. I absolutely took a break. I started collecting when I was 9. I started collecting sports cards when I was 10. I was collecting Garbage Pail Kids cards before that. I used to rip those. My mom hated them. I've talked about that a couple times. She just hated them because they're so gross and disgusting. And she's like, why do you like them? She's like, I'll buy you the dolls. I didn't like the dolls. I wanted the gross booger cards. And then when I got a little older, I always liked sports. I played sports. I grew up in Chicago. I'm a diehard Chicago sports fan. So I ripped a pack when I was at the card shop getting Garbage Pail Kids cards. I ripped a pack of Score. 1990 Score football cards. And I pulled a Mike Singletary Smash card. Probably my most favorite card that I own. And it is worth $1 maybe. I feel like it was worth $1 in 2020, so it's probably worth negative 10 cents now. But I still have it. It's on one of these shelves behind me that you can see. This whole room has cards all the way around it. Jeremy also collected. We grew up in the same kind of area. We went to the same card shop when we were kids. And I collected all the way into high school. And then once I got into high school, I was too cool to collect cards. It wasn't cool to collect cards when I was a kid, like it is now. It was like it is now. I would have not stopped probably, but it was my friends thought it was weird. So
peer pressure. Oh, I know that feeling.
As an adult, I don't
right.
Peer pressure anymore. But as a child, as a young teenage girl, I certainly did. And also I had other interests. I got really into art, which has actually helped reignite my collecting passion as an adult. I'm deeply invested in the art, the project cards, the card art that's happening now. The card carver, BT Cards and Cuts, these guys that are making beautiful card art is something that I gravitate towards too as an adult collector. But I stopped collecting, and then about I want to say 2016. Or 17, somewhere around there, I didn't realize that I was going to be creating card related content. So I didn't think to take notes of like my whole collecting experience before that. But my friend moved out here like late 2000. It had to be like, it was around New Year's of like 2017. He moved out here and he collected, and again, Jeremy, myself, and my friend all grew up together. And he brought his cards when he moved out to Michigan. And he's like, oh, I still do this. And me and Jeremy were like, nerd. Like, I can't believe this. Like, we used to do this when we were kids. So we set them all out and we're looking at them. And Jeremy tells this story because we were planning on going to like Costco and buying an arcade game for the basement for the kids. This room that I'm sitting in now was a game room. It got moved to another part of the basement, but this used to be a game room. We had a ping pong table and arcade games and a TV with like all sorts of stuff down here. And then the kids I'm like, get out, kids. We're going to put the cards in here now. So I went into the basement and I dug out my old box of cards. I had a 4-row box of cards with all of my cards that I saved that I felt were valuable enough. None of them were valuable. I had the Mike Singletary card, which I love, not valuable. And then I had a Larry Bird rookie card, was like the two that I was like, oh my gosh, I still have these. And that was it. And that was in 2017. So that was when you could still like go to any card shop and get like insane, really awesome hobby boxes for like $100. And so we just started ripping. I ripped like a Contenders Kobe on card auto. Kobe Bryant on card auto. Yes. And it was like, it was crazy. So like, it was fun and it was wild. And then the pandemic happened like a couple years later. And we were all stuck at home. And that's when I found out that there was like an online, because up until then, and I still talk to people at shows that have no idea that there's like card social media, that there's card podcasts, that there's even content creators around cards. They're like we were, and they would go to the card shop, they go to Walmart and buy a pack of cards. They maybe go to like one of the weird VFW shows near their house because that was what there was. And they didn't know. So when you collect like we were, and then everything gets shut down, then all of a sudden you find out that there's, then people started making more content because they're home. And that's kind of what drove us to start Reckless Cards. And it was more like when we started Reckless Cards, it was just to show off our cards. It had to do with, we had no intentions of creating content around cards. It was just, if you scroll all the way down on our Instagram page, it is super cringe because I didn't know what I was doing. So it's just like pictures of like really terrible pictures of cards that like I took no time to like try to like showcase how nice the card was. I didn't know what I was, how to post on social media so people would want to look at my cards and talk about them. And the better I got, the more people would engage. And then the more friends I made in the space and the more I would see other people's cooler cards. And it just kind of spiraled from there into what it is.
So you started creating content right around the start of the pandemic. And so when would you say you first started
content around, we got onto Instagram about cards around the time. It was probably like deeper into the pandemic when we started creating content.
Well, so I was wondering, I mean, Dr. Collectible and I talked about this too, where we both, because I went all the way deep into the archives and I've seen a lot of your stuff too, but basically like we both bonded over the fact that we started our content creation, our very first posts where we're literally taking pictures of our cards on the floor, just
mine's on my kitchen table. You can see the green of my table.
Yeah.
I did the logo. I actually designed our first logo. It was just like hideous and ugly. So, I should find one. I have like an old sweatshirt that has the old logo on it that my friend made me. So
vintage already, instant vintage. I would love to see it. But when did you start showing your face, Jeremy's face? Like I love that you incorporate family. I know not everyone does. I know we don't, but like I said to other like Dr. Collectible and Blake, basically there's no one right answer. You do what works for your own family. But when did you guys start doing that, like turning the camera around from the cards to your face?
So I would use the story to like ask questions about cards. So pretty like red. Like if you look, my hair was like this long and red.
Yeah, I've seen
It was
those.
that long ago because now it's like very long
Yeah.
and blonde. And if anybody knows about coloring your hair, it takes a really long time to go from red to blonde. So
So you did make an conscious decision early on to just tell
I
the
was doing
story.
I was doing content for my hair. I did hair. That was my
Mm,
I do actually in my real life. I don't talk about this a lot. I do hair
mhm,
for photo shoots, for models, for like publications,
mm,
that kind of stuff. So I was already doing content for hair stuff. So it wasn't like unfamiliar to do that for
got it.
us, for me. So it wasn't a big deal to like talk in front of the camera for I didn't know how to approach cards because I'd never done any kind of like social media for cards. I didn't even know it was a thing. So it was like a
Got
learning.
it. So maybe you weren't camera shy, but you didn't have like the vernacular and the colloquialisms for the hobby, but you were like you and Jeremy are very, telegenic, and you guys are camera ready, and you guys already knew about like things like viral sounds and what trends and all that, right?
I mean, TikTok still wasn't like a big thing when we started. My
Mm.
kids were really into TikTok. I actually got into the TikTok stuff because of my kids, because they liked TikTok and I tell you, Amelia hounded me forever to like download TikTok. I'm like, I'm not going to download TikTok. I'm too old for that. Right. And then I downloaded it and I was like, this is fun. And then they wanted, like, they were doing, I made them have their personal ones private because
Yeah,
I don't
good.
trust people on the internet.
Yeah.
Um, but then they were like showing me all the dances and we would do our walks around during the pandemic. We'd walk around the neighborhood and they taught me the dances. So then I'm like, well, I'm not doing dances for TikTok. That's embarrassing.
Uh-huh.
But I'm like, what if we did some like little skits? So then we started doing little skits and they loved doing that. And it was something that we did together. And I have very strong mixed opinions about kids on social media. I
Mhm,
like the girls, our littlest ones, I don't
mhm,
put a lot of them. Like occasionally if they have a baseball game or stuff,
mhm.
but I don't like to put them out there as much because they can't it's not even it's they can't consent to it. They're 4
Yeah,
and 6, you
right.
know? So they ask to be on it. If they see sports card, they'll be like reckless card. Like every sports card is reckless cards.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. They're like, oh, let's do reckless cards when we're at the card shop. I'm like, no, this is a card shop. So
So you have your own personal account for the family stuff. Like for
yeah,
Reckless Cards, the Instagram, that is strictly like the cards, right?
yeah, it's only
Okay.
cards. I have a
Gotcha.
personal one that I put pictures of the kids. It's private. People I know, like know. I have hobby
Right.
people on there now that I know, but
Yeah.
otherwise
I
it's all
mean,
family. I think I have
I
like
do.
I have
Yeah.
like less. I have like sub 300 followers on that one because it's like people I actually know.
Yes. If it's okay, I am one of them, and you have an adorable, wonderful family, and that's all I'll say. I will say that when it comes to what you just said about like family, and I like really like sharing stuff about myself. I talk about my family, but my family, my wife and I, we've had very thorough discussions about how I will not be showing uh, anyone in my family other than my dog, which I've only done like just twice. But I think you guys have a dog too, right?
We have 3 dogs and 4.
3 hobby dogs.
Yeah.
Are they? They're all watchdogs, right? They're all hobby watchdogs.
So Butters is like very old and senile, and he is the heart and soul of our family. Jeremy loves that dog more than anybody else. I mean not us all loving Butters. It's like he loves Butters more than he loves all of us.
Oh, combined, yeah, right.
And then Amber is a Saint Bernard, and she's just
Oh,
like she's so dumb. She's sweet. She's dog, but she's just like, and I look at her, I never know if she's like, I'm like, are you brilliant or are you insane? Like, I
yeah.
don't know. And
Oh my
then
god.
Oscar was a rescue dog, and annually we usually do it like we sell cards or we'll do like a card sale, and then
Mm,
all the proceeds from the card sale goes to DACC, which is Detroit Animal Control. Because that's how we got Oscar. Jeremy's crew found him in a sewer. He had been
oh my
thrown
gosh.
down a 17-foot sewer, and his arm had gotten broken, and he had plates and bolts, and so we rescued him. And so yeah, so every year we do a card sale, and then all the money for that, because Detroit has this terrible stray dog problem. It's a terrible problem. So
All right. So I wanted you on here to talk about content creation, but this happens with every guest I have, and it's either that I am a good podcast host or a bad one. I'm not sure, but there's a thing called conversational threading where, and I found this out through Instagram. I mean, it's natural for us to know it, but whenever you open the door to something, it just makes me want to go down there. So before we talk about content creation, I want to ask, because I know the two of you to be very caring and giving. And I forgot to mention, I guess, in my intro, that you, both of you, also break and sell singles on Drip online. You are a mainstay fixture in your local card scene with multiple card shows. You do treasure hunts for kids in these card shows. For all intents and purposes, I think promoters love you for that, and you are just well regarded in your hobby community, locally, regionally, and nationally, because you guys have been to Mint, National, and all that, right? So let's talk
I
about.
think so. I hope people try.
Yes.
We try to treat people the way we would want to be treated.
I will be your. You can stay humble. I will be the hype man. I will hype y'all up. You guys are just fantastic, really. You guys gave me the time of day, like especially you. When I mean, oh yeah, I should say, I was on your podcast, Hobby Night School. You were my second guest appearance after I was on Rob Gerard's Sports Car Therapist, his Collectors Roundtable. But if anyone has any concerns with me being in the podcast world, they have you to blame, you and Jeremy. You guys had me, you had myself and Alex Patchan, the Sports Card Stallion, on, and we were talking about scams and frauds in the hobby, because I had just I did avert a fraud, a very intricate fraud. And I actually want to do this like 5 levels of fraud. I haven't like fully workshopped it yet, but I think there are some frauds that are super easy where people just cold DM you. And then there's like the long cons. So I'm going to do that content down the road, maybe after National, but I want to get to, well, first I want to say thank you for having me on the podcast. It really was so much fun, and I was like, oh, I want to keep doing this. I had the taste for blood, Courtney. I just
you got bit by the bug, huh?
Yes, absolutely. But you have these. You have a stellar reputation as a card seller. You have the integrity. People trust you, online and in person. So let's talk about like the local card show scene in the Midwest, because I think you might be. I had someone on earlier who was in the Chicago area, but there sometimes I think people, I don't know if you agree with this, but sometimes people tend to forget about the Midwest for many things in the zeitgeist. So could we talk about the local card show scene in the Midwest, and anything that has to do with selling as a dealer online, or selling in person as a dealer or online?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jeremy and I talk about this a lot with like pretty much anyone who will listen. The Midwest is an insanely passionate area for collecting. There's a reason the Nationals in Chicago and Cleveland and in this area. There is a large, and I think so many content creators and so many big, like very beautiful shops and shows are on the East and West Coast that I think people forget how amazing it is in the Midwest, specifically Michigan. Michigan has the most saturated card shop area that are all have been here for decades, are incredibly still successful and viable. And a lot of them aren't even online. They don't even have to be online, because their community, their card, collectors in this area are so strong and passionate. Jeremy he made a video for Thicc, because we have Thicc, Reckless Cards, and Dangerous Minds. We're just pumping out content. So I'm sorry if you're sick of seeing my face. And now I'm on other people's podcasts too. So I'm just like putting myself out there and making everybody miserable by seeing me all the time. So,
get out of here. Get out of here. Come on.
Jeremy made he made a video the other day, and I thought it was so poignant in that he talks about content creation and social media, is that it's not really real, and it's not a good barometer for the hobby, because a lot of social media, and like we all do it, you post stuff up to get people to like engage with you. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's like, sometimes I wonder if people say stuff that they don't even believe just to get people to engage with them. And by sometimes I wonder that I know that people absolutely do that. So if you really want to see what the hobby looks like and what the heart of the hobby is, you need to be going to shows. You need to be going to card shops. You need to like remove yourself from the social media bubble and be with like the collectors. Because tell me that like the way people are online versus when you're going to shows, like when it's not totally different. Like we can't keep cards in our cases when we're selling. Yeah. If I'm at a show and everybody's like, oh, I can't sell. Well, no, you can't sell for 5 times what the card is worth anymore, because that was like a weird anomaly during the pandemic. Nobody who's been in the space thought that was going to stay the same. My mind was blown. We went from like 2017 where cards were normal prices to 2019, 2020, where all of a sudden it was just like an insane spike. I'm like, how are people like, what is happening?
Stimulus checks, right?
Yeah. So, but like you know, it isn't, the hobby's not dead. The hobby is, and it's fun. I spend my weekends at card shows with card people, and we love it. So when you're there and you like, I cannot buy cards fast enough to put back into my case, and we're buying lots of like, and I don't mean lots like tons. I mean like boxes and boxes of cards.
Yeah.
And selling them as fast as we get them in, and we're not losing money. I mean, I wouldn't be doing this I wouldn't be selling cards like the way that we sell them if I was like bleeding money, right? We don't do that. It doesn't make sense. We sell cards to buy things like our personal collection. And we have very strict rules about that, because we were spending so much money on cards that it's like, okay, so we have to fund the cards through the cards. And that's the only way you can do that responsibly, unless you have like a lot of disposable income, which I know a lot of people don't have disposable income. Right. So we set the rule. Like if we buy these cards, we sell them, the profit, we can buy more cards, and then half the profit goes to buying PC cards. And we have done that for the last, I don't know, 6 years.
So I would love to see you guys in action at a local card show, but it would mean, I got to go out to B Sports or Shipshawana, things like that, which I really want to do. I really do. I just
need to come to Shipshawana or Lansing. Those shows are
absolutely.
Huge. B's
but I
sold out. So
I'm sorry.
The Shipshawana is sold out. Like it's like 50 deep waiting list now for that show.
Oh wow, man, that is awesome. How much are tables there? And are they 6x3 or 8x3?
They are 8 foot, I believe. I don't know. And they're $50 a table.
Okay. Oh, that's
and they have security.
Yeah.
And there's food trucks and coffee, and Brad is one of the best promoters. He like genuinely cares about what's
Brad is B Sports, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I have seen your Instagram lives where you're showing the scene, and it's wonderful to get that view. I have seen, what is it called? Like the Knights of Columbus, like the big halls, right? And then also halls and malls. Let's call it halls and malls.
Halls and malls. I like that. Yeah. I like that. I'm here for the malls.
So, but you, what is it called? Arch Avery Shoebox. That's in a mall, right?
That one's in a mall. That one again, Dennis. I would say Dennis and Brad are top tier, best promoters. Dennis, he will sit down with people who want to set up at his show and help them be good vendors. You don't see a lot of promoters doing stuff like that. He's like, what do you have? What do you think about bringing? I will help you decide, like what sells at this show. He will even talk about how he gives people advice. And then also I want to say Johnny Ford, they do a show quarterly. That shows, or twice a year, actually, it's biannual. And that show, like, they have rules. Like, you cannot set up at their show unless every card in your thing is priced. Which, yeah, and if you don't, then they're like, yeah, you can't set up at the next one. And I think that's brilliant, because how often do you go to a show and you're walking around and, like, I'll walk past someone and they have, like, cards that I might be interested in, but I don't want to stand there and be like, how much for this one? And they're like, oh, make an offer, and you make an offer. And then you have to wait for them to comp the card because they didn't do it before they set up.
Right.
Like that, to me, that's like owning a store, walking into, and you walk into someone's store and they have all this stuff up on the shelves.
Yeah.
And none of it's priced.
Right.
You're like, do I want to buy anything here? Can I even afford it? I don't know.
That's interesting.
And I would immediately walk out.
Yeah.
And I
yeah.
was thinking about cards. Like if you're setting up and you're a vendor, you should be pricing your products for sale.
Yeah. So I got to ask about those prices. Are they, I know there's some tactics, right? Because I've dealt at shows too. One of them is to put them in the front so people don't have to ask them. They just look at the price. They can look at the card and negotiate. There's also the school of thought to put the price in the back of the card. So if people don't see the price, it is comped. You just they can't see it. So they inquire about a card, and then, you guys start, take it out of the showcase. It's almost like a test drive for a car. You want them to hold the card, and then you kind of like talk to them about the card. But what's your school of thought?
Personally, my school of thought is I want to know what the price for something is.
Up front and the front.
We put ours on the front. If it's numbered, it's labeled on the front that it's numbered out of whatever. Pop we put on there. We want people to have full understanding of what they're looking at. It makes the amount of cards we sell, I think it changes to like if you're at a show where if you're like someone who has all like really high end stuff, right? At some point, there's only going to be a certain market of people that can afford to buy that. So you don't have to put the prices on the front, because if I walk up to your card and I know, like, I can look at it and know that this is a $3,000 card and that's the like, lowest card you have in your case. Ooh. I know that at that point, we're going to be negotiating over these cards. It isn't, this is the price. It's not like you have $50 cards and they sell for $50 every day, and it's not, that price isn't going to change. It is what it is, because it's a very high printed card, and you can watch eBay and just see the sales every single day. It sells all day for that amount. So there's a difference. It depends on what you're selling, in my opinion, to how you're going to price it.
Again, conversational threading. I have 3 offshoots I want to do. They can either be quick or short. These are not in my notes at all. One is, are you a proponent of the coin flip when negotiations get really close? But they can't get off? You have done coin flips, so you like coin flips.
I mean, not always, but yeah, we've done it. It's fun. Right, if we have a card and I can, and we have that, I've done a card. We've done coin flips before.
Okay, so certainly I don't think I'm going to be creating any hobby precedent here, but I did want to talk about this a little bit, coin flip etiquette. And I haven't done this with any of the guests, so you're my first with regards to talking about this topic. Would you agree that the person who flicks it up in the air should not be the person who calls it? It's the other person who calls it, and it has to be called in the air before it lands, right? I mean, would you say that's okay, or can the person who flicks it up call it?
No, it's definitely, if you flip it, the other person calls it. But like that's with any kind of coin flip, not just hobby coin flip.
Oh no, I totally get that. I'm just saying, I've seen some content where the coin hasn't flipped in the air. It's still, it's almost like.
Oh, here's another one. I have one for you. When you catch it and you flip it.
Do you flip it? Yeah, because that's 50-50, right? So what is it? Does it have to hit the showcase? Does it have to hit the floor? Does it have to hit the table? Do you catch it? I mean, tell us. You give us the proper coin flip etiquette.
I don't. So to be clear, like when we coin flip it, like if I agree to a coin flip, it's because either way I'm fine. I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
We're going back and forth. I'm like 25, and they're like 30, 25, 30, and we've done it for like a little more than that too. But at the end of the day, like it's like let's flip for it. Is more like I don't care. Like if you get $5 off, it doesn't matter. So however it happens, it happens. The last time we did it, the kid flipped it, Jeremy called it, and it landed on the table. Because I don't like it when people set stuff on my showcase.
Yeah, right. Oh my god, people don't understand. Either. Yeah, it's kind of like the whole Hobby S. Thompson thing. Like until you actually deal and until you actually have the showcases or you rent showcases, you don't know what it's like to put the Zion case on someone else's showcase. So that's why I want people to do other things. So once you're on the other side of the table, you gain that appreciation, being like,
showcases,
oh my goodness,
are expensive, man.
Yeah, like I will never.
I say right now, don't set stuff on somebody else's showcase.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we're gonna get to Scotch tape, painter's tape. We're gonna talk about a lot of things tonight, I think. So coin flip, there's no set rules, but it would be wonderful to see an established set of rules. But I will say it's fun. I used to be really anti coin flip. And then I was like, you know what? Time value of money. Why are we haggling, or why are we, arguing or dickering over like $5, $10, even $20, $30? I'm like, let's just flip. And I guess it depends on the price of the card, right? It's almost like a percentage of the card.
Yeah, if it's like I'm getting 10% margin or I'm getting 15% margin, what does a coin flip matter?
Exactly. Yeah. $5.
You can't lose money taking a profit.
Man, clippable. I love that. That's great. That is great. You're not dealing at the national. You were just going as a
I
general public
never feel at
member.
the national. I don't
Never. Okay.
like getting stuck at a table. I don't want to get stuck at a table. I want to be able to walk around and see everything.
Okay.
It's like Disneyland. That would be
Oh.
like, oh, at Disneyland, but you have to work at the Dippin' Dot station. No, thank you.
Ooh. Good way to put it. Okay. Well, I'm just hoping I don't throw up in the teacups. I think when I go to national, because it is going to be a lot to it's going to be like drinking water through a fire hose. I know I'm going to be there from Wednesday to Sunday, and yet I know people keep saying it's going to be like so much
It goes
fun.
so
It's going
fast.
to it goes kind of like recording a podcast. It just goes by so fast.
It
So
really does.
I'm really excited. There's so many people where I'm like, I'll finally see you in person. I want to be so happy. Okay, so my second question: what sells more in your, local card shop when you local card shows? Is it the range of the dollar boxes to 50, 50 to 200, 200 to 1,000, 1,000 above? Like, where are you getting your most either gross margins, net profits, or gross margins? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I don't do dollar boxes anymore. We did for a
Okay.
long time,
Okay.
but I don't have the wherewithal to haul all of that around.
Yeah.
Hardcore and like super impressed by people that like haul in, I mean, hundreds of pounds of cards. Pardon me, you started drinking and then my throat got all itchy.
Water, hydrate. This is I call this
enemy.
Can I just say this, Courtney? Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to say this is my water of choice right now. It is Kirkland brand alkaline water, pH 9.5. So I call it my Gem Mint water, 9.5.
Nice. Mine is just like great value water.
Oh.
So I bought cases of it for T-ball because I'm like weird about I ordered a bunch of those water bottles that you press the lid and it like cleans it, but I never think water bottles are clean enough. I refill these and then I recycle them.
You
So
reuse them? Okay.
we'll use them for projects too. The kids love crafts, so we're constantly like cutting the bottoms off and making plants and stuff.
Okay, super mom, stop making me feel so bad about by
Sorry.
me not doing that. Okay, no, I'm just kidding.
Anyway, so you asked about cards. So I don't do dollar boxes anymore. We used to do dollar boxes a lot, but I don't anymore. We buy lots with dollar boxes, and then what I'll do is I don't even pick through them. I have a guy in Michigan who that's all he does is dollar boxes. So when they come in a lot that I buy, I just call him up. I'm like, hey, got these cards, and he'll just take them for like whatever flat rate, and then he pieces them out. Nice. That's more his thing than mine. I would say we do $500 to like $200 cards.
Okay.
All day, easiest thing to sell. Yeah. I love that. Like I have fun with those because it's a price range where you get more people that are able to buy those cards. That's not to say that we don't have I have a $4,000, $4,500 like Vinny Jr. card that is in my thing. I have my Joe Burrow auto. That card's insane. The Jordan auto. We have the P. Will. We have cards that are like valuable. Now the P. Will's not for sale. So that's the other thing.
Okay, continue to make me feel bad. Thank you for all the flexing you're doing. For people who are watching only, for the people who are only on audio who are not watching the video, Courtney is just flexing her the curls for the girls.
Curls for the girls.
There you go. So I gotta say, I really appreciate you saying that. So Vinny Jr. So I'm not a big soccer person, but just for people who are trying to follow along, that is Vinny Testaverde Jr. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm not a big soccer person either.
It was a joke. I think it's Vinicius.
Vinicius. Jeremy said.
Yeah. I don't do soccer either.
I like watching soccer. I don't collect soccer. And I'm like low key, I'm more MLS, which is stupid because everybody's like MLS is stupid. But we had season tickets to the Fire, so I'm like deeply passionate about. It's almost like MLS is like watching minor league. They're oh, we just want to be good.
I want to be. Mom, look at me. I'm running.
It's more legit. We have like real players coming. And
I'm sorry to interrupt. Like today is the day when they just showed Lionel Messi in his first time in Publix down in Miami, and I'm like,
I saw that. I was like,
I've been to that Publix.
Lionel Messi at Publix.
Yeah, I hope you got the chicken tender sub. That's my favorite sub. They have the best subs. All right, Michigan, Midwest. where grocery store? Just please, just give me the names. Is it
Kroger.
Albertsons? Is it Safeway? Kroger? Okay. Kroger. I'm putting that in my notes here because we have Safeway. I think Albertsons got out of the way. Giant got out of the way in this area. I mean, Whole Foods and.
I grew up in Chicago, so like it's so funny because I still call like grocery bags jewel bags.
Joe bags.
Jewel.
Jewel, like the artist or the gemstone. Jewel.
Yeah, it's also like a grocery chain in Illinois, and so we would. Everything's a jewel bag. Hey, go grab me a jewel bag. My kids are like, they're like, it's a Kroger bag. I'm like, what? It's a jewel bag. It's like how everyone in Texas calls Pop Coke, even though.
Well, Texas has what is that? It's the San Antonio Spurs keep doing the ads for them. I forget now, of course, right at the tip of my tongue, and I can forget it. But they have their own chain down in Texas. I'm sure someone's listening to this being like, it's San Antonio, but no, I don't know. I just love my grocery stores, my local ones. I don't like the whole Foods and all that stuff. All right. See, I rarely do this, but I got to look it up because someone is like yelling right now, telling me it's the San Antonio Spurs. They do their thing with this San Antonio Spurs grocery store. This is my first time doing this.
I don't even know what you're talking about. So
okay.
I'm deeply committed to finding out what the heck you're doing.
I have to find this out.
I'm vamping for you while
HEB. Heb. So I don't think it's called Heb. It's HEB. And
Heb.
Oh, it is a Heb.
Heb. Right?
See, then I'm wrong, I guess.
I don't know. No. Like, there's no way. Like, where are you going today? HEB? No, I'd be like, I'm going to Heb, right? Like, you got to.
I guess. I mean, maybe it's like the National and Natty, which I know some people really hate being called Natty, but I want to feel.
People are so deeply attached to what they call it.
Yes.
I know people that will like straight up like attack you if you call it Nationals.
Nationals, yeah, that's the worst one. I think
the worst one. Like you're gonna get like a stunner if you call it that.
Stone Cold Stunner, just right in the middle. Okay, we're clearly just going crazy here. Best wrestling finishing move, because I will tell you straight up, I think it's the RKO. I think it's the RKO out of nowhere. That's my favorite.
Mandible? I don't know.
Oh, the one where he puts his
Mankind.
Mankind.
You know why? I have a fun story. I'm doing the Dangerous Games podcast. There was a murderer.
No.
A murderer. We don't know.
Oh, alleged, right.
Who was a wrestler who started the mandible claw. Like
to kill.
Yeah, no, it was his finishing move. I don't want to
I thought. Okay, yeah. Don't.
Dangerous Games podcast. Dr. Sam Shepard.
Okay.
Maybe killed his wife. So. Okay. Listen to it, and it will tell you the origin of that. And so like I have a deep when Mankind jumped off that
Hell in a Cell. It was just the anniversary just recently.
Nose.
Oh my god.
That like impact, like I still think about that sometimes, like randomly, like his tooth being like.
Yeah, we all thought it was snot or something, that it was a booger, but it was his tooth. It's wild.
Oh man,
Oh,
it deeply affected me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it traumatized me. I remember. I mean, the crazy thing is because when I rewatched it, I was like, oh yeah, like that's the worst thing that happened. I mean, yes, it's the worst, but also after that happened, he had more falls. He was body slammed onto a bed of thumbtacks.
Yeah.
I stubbed my toe and I'm crying. Like.
I stubbed my toe. I'm done for the whole day.
I'm just shut it down.
My pinky toe hurts. And having his tooth pop out of his nose, so I don't know.
My literally. I mean, I'll just say it straight up. Like, if people are listening to this chronological, you will have heard me literally start crying when my last podcast guest he wasn't trying to make me cry, but like I just straight up was like getting so emotional. So that's me, and then I'm watching this dude being thrown off Hell in a Cell, being body slammed onto a bed of thumbtacks, and I'm just like, yeah, pain thresholds, interesting.
Yeah, and I feel like I have a pretty high pain tolerance, but if my tooth fell out of my mouth and came out of my nose, I feel like, I have bad dreams. Like my nightmares are my teeth falling out. Like, and I think I read somewhere that that's like that you're like, if you're stressed out, you dream that your teeth are falling out. I have dreams like that all the time. So I think that might be one of my big fears. And so watching someone's tooth just shoot out of their nose, I can't. I'm sorry. I'm on a tangent.
You've
I can't even
you've
remember what
given
you asked.
birth. Can as a reminder, you have given
I've
birth
had
4
4 children.
times
Yeah, 4.
and
I had 4 kids.
3. Oh my goodness. And that is, I mean, I don't know what's worse and all that, but right. I mean,
Nothing's worse. There's
I
no
want to, yeah, it's wild. I gotta say, I don't even remember my third. Oh, I do. I mean, yeah, let's get there because we're
okay.
already at the 40-minute mark. This is wild. Okay, here's the thing. Before we get to content creation, before we talk about some other topics we said we might touch on, I want you to tell me how awesome, impressed, embarrassed, or whatever emotions you have about when your daughter, because you mentioned her name earlier, Amelie, right? Or Amelia, when she just fleeces these little boys in sales.
So
Paint us the picture of that
I'm going to tell
amazing.
you, we tease
Yes.
all the time, and this is Amelia doesn't have to negotiate because 1, she knows what she's doing, and 2, she is stunning. So she'll put out her cards, and like she just someone will walk up and be like, a lot of these teenage boys, she negotiates with the girls. They'll negotiate, and I like it. But the boys will come up and they'll just be like, "How much?" And she'll be like, $50, and they just give it to her.
Oh,
How do you? That's magic. So no, she loves the card stuff. She's deeply she's got a very awesome swim card collection. She's gotten really into the Stranger Things with me. She loves the Disney cards. So that has been fun. She likes the Bulls cards. The kids all they love sports, and they've grown up going to sporting events their whole lives. It is something that's like just part of the family. All of my kids play sports. So the fact that she can collect swimming cards when she is a competitive swimmer has been really cool for her. So that it's been fun. And she's smart, and she doesn't even have to, she'll sell stuff that she doesn't like. She's not really into baseball or soccer. And so, but she can, if she looks at the price of the card and she knows that we priced it, she'll do the math in her head and know, hey, this is how much margin I have on this card. So she can negotiate without even, knowing really anything about that particular sport. And that comes with just having a deep knowledge of sales, because a lot of this is building skills that they're going to have for the rest of their life. Maybe it isn't. Maybe she won't collect cards forever. She's collected them longer now than I did, and I think that comes from having a family that collects.
Yeah.
But they can set up. They know how. They understand sales. They understand margin. They understand negotiation. They understand customer service. They understand, the intrinsic value in, tangible property that they have. And they understand, how the market works. She understands that we aren't going to sell, football cards end of season for a team that's already out of the playoffs. She understands that. She doesn't have to like football. She does like football, so it's a bad example, but she doesn't have to understand football to understand that this is not the time to sell these cards because this isn't the market for that. And these are lessons that even she can use moving forward. So as a parent, having your kids involved in a hobby that teaches them things like this is fun. It's wonderful to watch them understand business in that sense.
I love it. I absolutely love it. There's so many soft skills and hard skills you learn within the hobby that kids can certainly learn from. So thank you. That's, I mean, I was going to get to parenting in the hobby, but I think you already covered it with with the answer to that question. So that's awesome. Where do we go now? Oh my gosh. I have my set of questions, but do you have anything you want to ask me
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about how you started podcasting because you got bit by the bug.
Yeah.
And I know, if there's anyone watching because I shared it and maybe they aren't following you, explain the Hobby S. Thompson thing.
All right. Thank you. So The concept comes from it's everything I do is like really a parody imitation. It's a copy, and I know that I mean my past podcast guests we were talking about what so long as you're doing it in a good positive way and not in a mean negative way, that imitation being the best most sincere form of flattery, that type of thing. So I feel like a lot of what we do in the hobby is also very derivative, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that I see other people do where it comes from pop culture, it comes from the zeitgeist, right? Just we latch on to something. So you look at people's Instagram handle names, and it's like a derivation of something in pop culture. So for me, I will I guess I haven't said this to really much anyone. I'm not like a big reader. I do like to learn things, but especially in the day and age of like smartphones, I read articles online, and nowadays I barely do that because I'm just consuming hobby content. But I knew about this author. His name is Hunter S. Thompson, and Hunter S. Thompson was very well known for embedding himself into groups and learning about them and just absorbing knowledge and then finally like sharing it out in like literary works like books and magazine articles. So the most famous one he did was with the Hells Angels. He embedded himself with the biker gang. And so this isn't the book title, but it's one of the books he made because I couldn't do I was trying to figure out like Fear and Loathing Las Vegas, Hells Angels. I couldn't do like a pun. So the pun I came up with was for the Rum Diary, which is one of his books. And so I was like, well, let me call it the Car Diary. I've had derivations, sports car diary, the, hobby diary, just whatever. I was like, just the Car Diary by Hobby S. Thompson. And I think, Courtney, you know this very well. I ruminate. I think I overthink too much. I over communicate. I over examine. And at a certain point, I kept tinkering with it. And there were definitely people who were like, this is not going to work. This is too derivative, too cheesy, too corny. And I was like, you know what? Thank you everyone for your feedback, but I just need to press record. Like I overthought my first episodes. I talked way too much. It wasn't very guest focused, at least when I first started doing it. And then now I love guest episodes more than the monologue episodes. So the Car Diary, I think, is in a way evolving, but that's where the name comes from. The Rum Diary by Hunter S. Thompson, aka or turned into transitioning into the Car Diary by Hobby S. Thompson. So thank you very much for allowing me to answer that 20 something episodes in.
That's cool. I already knew the answer to that, but I thought other because I
setting it up.
I was very curious about
Yes.
the name. I'm like, why didn't you just go with like Denny's Cards podcast or something?
Yeah.
So I was curious, and I think it's cool. It's thoughtful, and I do think that people enjoy. Like people always ask me like, why Reckless Cards? Are you reckless with cards? I'm like, no, man. Our last name starts with Rec.
Yeah,
so,
right.
It's not as creative. So
it is quite a brand. I want to talk to you about just transitioning to like your podcast studio and like the branding and all that. You talked about rebranding and like having different logos. I mean, where do you like you clearly have the color orange. Is that like a very strong color that you've associated like in your life to come up with that, to put that in your logo?
So that's super funny. Actually, I don't like orange. I like
orange. Oh gosh, your podcast studio is orange.
I know. I didn't like orange. Orange is Jeremy's favorite color.
Okay.
And it's so funny because when we did the logo, my really good friend just sent it to me. He made it, and he was just like, he's a graphic designer, and he's like, hey, I made this because I know you're doing the card stuff, and I thought you might like it. And he sent it to me, and I loved it, and it was orange. And I was like, well, I'm like, I guess we're gonna have an orange logo. And Jeremy was like, yes, he loves orange, so that's his favorite color. And it just grew on me. And now everything's orange. I have orange everything. My phone case. I do my nails, or I'll have my nails done orange for the national. Nice. Everything's orange. And it's so funny because for years, that was the color that I did not like. And you know why? Because I did hair for 20 years. And if you've ever done hair, which nobody I'm sure listening to this is a hairdresser, but getting orange out of someone's hair, like the orange undertones and making them blonde, is the hardest color to remove. It's brass is difficult to get rid of. So I've just naturally over the years, I'm just like, orange is the worst.
Gotcha.
And now that I don't color hair anymore. It doesn't bother me. And my Zion case is orange. I have a huge orange wall here. Again, my phone case is orange. When we mail stuff to people, we have orange packaging.
I've received it.
If you don't associate us with orange, then I'm doing something wrong.
Thanks for listening to the 26th episode of the Card Diary by Hobby S. Thompson. You can find me on Instagram at Denny_cards. Please DM me or comment on the clipped reels that I make for this show if you like it. Or at the very least, please leave a rating and review so that others can find out about this podcast. And we are getting closer and closer to 1,000 plays across all episodes. Next episode is the second part of my chat with Courtney. So having said that, to my listeners in Switzerland, Auf Wiederluge, I think. I don't know. I hope I said it right.